Talking about Lieutenant Michelle Robinson, who is joining us live via Zoom right now. Lieutenant Robinson, good morning. How are you? Good morning. Lieutenant Robinson, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, good to see you this morning. So let's chat about just what we're seeing out there on the roads here a little bit closer to home in West Michigan. What are your troopers reporting this morning on the roads out there?
Well, good morning, Sam and Tanner. Thanks for having me. It is still very slippery outside. And you'll probably have already talked to the Road Commission and MDOT, where the combination of both sand and salt is making it very difficult with these cold temperatures to really have that work as well as it normally does. So we are still seeing a lot of slippery conditions and whiteout conditions because the snow is so fluffy. And you can be traveling along and all of a sudden the winds pick up and you have complete whiteout conditions.
Yeah, that's got to be scary. Something that you and I were discussing, Lieutenant Robinson, before we got on here a few hours ago, was there are a lot of people out there with no lights on their cars. And this is something actually that we've heard about quite often over the last couple of days. Can you just describe what drivers should be doing if they're getting out there? I know it's daytime and it seems silly to have our lights on, but how does that help in visibility purposes, like with the whiteout conditions that some are seeing across our region today?
Right. When you're traveling out there on the roadways, it's very difficult to see you when the snow picks up and you have these whiteout conditions. And a lot of times what people don't realize is some vehicle manufacturers, even though you have your daytime running lights on, that doesn't include your tail lights. I know that you had a caller this morning that, or someone that wrote in that said to remind motorists of that, but a lot of motorists don't realize that their vehicle is like that. So even though you have your daytime running lights on, it's not engaging the lights in the rear of your vehicle. So what we recommend is anytime you get in your vehicle, if you don't know whether that works or not on your car, turn your lights all the way on. That way, if you are traveling down the roadway and someone is coming up behind you, they'll see you sooner because they can actually see your tail lights.
And tell us a little bit about what you guys experienced yesterday and then how things are holding up today as well.
Yeah, we're not thrilled with your forecast, Sam, but that's okay.
Yeah, you get her. You get her, Lieutenant Robinson.
Yesterday, as of 9 o'clock this morning, over the last 24 hours, just the troopers out of the Grand Rapids post, they covered 83 crashes, and that's between Ottawa, Muskegon, and Kent counties. That doesn't include the county, local, and or the city and township officers as well. So just our troopers handled 83. We did have to bring in extra personnel to cover those crashes. And so it's the one thing that we cannot reiterate enough is one, slow your vehicles down and allow what we call a reactionary gap between you and the vehicle in front of you. And what that means is if that vehicle loses control, you have enough room between you and that vehicle so that you can do some kind of evasive maneuver, whether it be changing lanes, slowing down in time, so that you can create that gap, have that safety distance as you're traveling down the roadways. And that really, really helps when we see these multi-vehicle pileups. It's that they're going way too fast for the conditions and they're not leaving enough room between them and the vehicle in front of them.
So, Lieutenant Robinson, you can't see what we're seeing, but we're taking a look at some of our sky cameras across the region. We were just looking at, I believe, what was I believe it was the Ford was 131 in Bridge Street, where we were seeing, in some cases, blowing snow, creating those whiteout conditions that you described. What we're also seeing is a lot of snow on the roadways, Lieutenant Robinson. What do you recommend to folks who are driving do when they encounter snow on the road, which likely probably does have a thin layer of ice under it too?
Well, first and foremost, it begins before you even leave your driveway. We oftentimes see vehicles that they don't have the snow cleared off the top of it, or they're trying to operate off this little defrosted portion of their windshield, and that creates incredibly dangerous driving habits. And so what we recommend, or what we encourage drivers, and it is against the law to have that blowing snow off your vehicle, make sure you clean your vehicles off, get all that snow off it, leave a little early so that you can have the defrost on and have a clear windshield. When you start going out on the roadways, if you safely can, apply your brakes when you're just pulling out of your driveway, just to kind of test the road conditions and see, what the packing is underneath when you first begin. As you're traveling down the roadway, it's kind of like the joke here in Michigan that, hold on because the weather will change in the next 5 minutes. The same thing can be said for the roadways. You can be traveling along and you feel like it's perfectly clear, and then all of a sudden you'll have whiteout conditions where your visibility goes to zero.
Yeah.
And so what happens during that time is that you are not you're not aware as acutely as you would be in a clear situation of what hazards and what maybe disabled vehicles are ahead of you in your travels. So if you slow your speeds down, make sure that you have that space so that you can see what's coming up ahead and you don't find yourself into a bad situation.
I want to ask you, you guys dealt with a number of wrecks yesterday, you said. You also said that 2 of these wrecks involved state police vehicles. And so my next question pertains to first responders out there on the road. Unfortunately, I'm sure you heard we also had a fire engine down with Comstock Fire Department that was hit while they were responding to an accident on I-94. In any case, what do you recommend to drivers out there when they see an accident scene? I'm sure likely people are rolling by them quite frequently today. So what would be your recommendation for those folks out on the roads?
Once again, slow down. Watching that video of the fire truck that was struck, it's our first responders are working very, very hard out there. And so we ask that move over. There is the law, the move over law. This isn't anything new. But this also includes your tow truck drivers and those disabled vehicles that are on the side of the road. Even if it's a regular passenger vehicle, give them the respect and go over to a lane if you safely can so that they have that room. Tow truck drivers need to have that extra room to pull vehicles out of the ditch when they go in the ditch. And our law enforcement, our fire, our MDOT workers and road commission workers, give them the room they need. We also have you have to be a certain distance from snow plows. Don't crowd the plows. They're trying to keep your travel safe, and give them the respect on the roadways that they need in order to do their jobs so that you can get to your destination safely.
Absolutely. I hope everyone's soaking in everything that you're saying right now because it's all such good information.
I want to get what she's saying and put it in bullet points on our website.
We're going to make signs of it. I love this. Okay, I just have to know, what does a day look like for you guys in situations like this? Like, you hear my forecast the night before, and what's going through your head of what you're going to have to deal with the next day?
Well, oh boy. This isn't anything. I mean, we're in Michigan. If you've spent any time in Michigan, you're used to these kinds of conditions. And we have crashes even when it's 70 degrees and sunny outside. But it's the difficulties that the troopers on the roadway have to deal with, and all law enforcement, all first responders. Our ultimate goal is we want to keep everybody safe out there. We never have to want to knock on anyone's door and deliver the absolute worst case scenario news to them.
Yeah.
That is one of the most difficult things that we have to do in policing. And so on a day-to-day thing, what the troopers will be doing is driving up and down the roadways, checking on those disabled vehicles, making sure that there's nobody inside of it, because especially with these extremely cold temperatures, it only takes a matter of a few minutes before someone can get hypothermia. And the other really important thing that we want to stress too is if you do find yourself going off the roadway into the ditch, we ask that, one, you stay in your vehicle, but first and foremost, if you can safely get out, to make sure that your tailpipe isn't stuffed with snow, because now we're creating a carbon monoxide situation. And so if you can make sure that your tailpipe isn't plugged up with snow, stay in your vehicle. If you have a red cloth or a red rag, put that outside your window because that will let people know, hey, we need help. If we start getting to a situation where there's multiple vehicles that have slid off the roadway, troopers will then tie a safety tape. It's a bright yellow tape. They'll tie that on the car. And what that means is that that vehicle has already been checked and we don't need to have you call that in again.
Lieutenant Robinson, before we let you go, I have one more question for you. You know, I had asked you to provide some details about the earlier crash from this morning on 131, I believe near Pearl Street. This was on the southbound lanes in the early morning hours of our commute. What's the latest that you're hearing on that?
The latest on that is still, we're believing that the driver did suffer some medical type of emergency which caused the crash. That still remains under investigation and it will take some time to get that determination on that. But, our thoughts go out to those families that are involved in that. It's never something that we want to see out on the roadways. And that's one of the main reasons we're out there is to make sure that the motorists stay safe on our roadways and they get to their destinations where they need to be.
All right, Lieutenant Michelle Robinson with Michigan State Police. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
Such a pleasure. And you know
Thank
what?
you
doing things like this, taking the time out of your day to join us, are saving lives just in giving people this little bit of extra information. So thank you for everything that you do, both on the scene and virtually for us.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you so much.